Hello and welcome to the Discover channel. Today, this is build number 2 of the Kaby Lake series of gaming PCs on this YouTube channel.
Oh my dude, you just got pranked. Bet you didn't see that one coming, huh?
So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a comprehensive view of this $500 gaming PC through the specifications, performance, and benchmarks that this PC will give off, as well as the pros and cons you'll be getting with this PC. But now 2 things real quick. Number 1, today is the last day to enter the Havit 380L giveaway. And all you need to do is like this video, be sure you're subscribed, make sure to click the bell notification button, and comment down below so I can choose out a winner. And the winners will be announced either in next week's video or the week after. And I'll be choosing a total of 10 winners on that video, and whoever pretty much responds first out of that 10, if they watch the video and send me an email, will win the Havit 380L gaming keyboard. So be sure you know when that happens, and yeah, so today's the last day to enter. And number 2, and this is something I think will be very beneficial to the channel, which is that I'm going to be opening up a Shopify website, which, by the way, the link for that will be in the description down below. And why that is here is that I can now actually, if you guys want, build a PC for one of you guys, as well as showcase it on the channel and ship it to you guys. And I feel like this will be a really good way to finally feature some real life PC builds on the channel, because that is something that this channel very much deserves. So let's go ahead and start the build video with some benchmarks for this $500 gaming PC, and I think you guys are going to be really impressed with the performance of this budget PC. So starting off with the first game, which is Witcher 3, you're going to be able to run it at very high settings at 1080p at 48 frames per second. And now with Battlefield 1, you'll be easily able to run that game at ultra settings 1080p at an average frame rate of 77 frames per second. If you wanted to, you can actually run Watch Dogs 2 at ultra settings 1080p at about 38 frames per second. And with Doom, using Vulkan at ultra settings 1080p, you'll be actually able to get 114 frames per second, which is incredible for the price of this gaming PC. And finally, if you're one of those people who loves to play GTA 5 all the time, you can definitely run that game at very high settings 1080p at 62 frames per second. But what about the specs of this $500 budget computer? Well, this build is going to be featuring an Intel Core i3-7100. This is one of the brand new Kaby Lake processors that is a dual core processor with hyper-threading that runs at a strict 3.9 gigahertz, which is pretty awesome for its advertised price. Also, the motherboard in this build is going to be the Asrock H110M DGS motherboard. The RAM in this build is 8 gigabytes of G.Skill Ripjaws V series RAM. And as for the hard drive, as usual, we're going to be going with a 1 terabyte Western Digital Blue hard drive. And for the power supply, we're actually going to go with an EVGA 450B 450 watt power supply. And for the case, we're going to go with a DIY OF2 PC ATX mid tower. And finally, for the graphics card, we're going to be going with an MSI RX 470 with 4 gigabytes of VRAM. And actually, it's the overclocked edition, so you are going to be getting this graphics card at an overclock speed right out of the box. And all this is for about $515, which is pretty awesome. So let's go ahead and start off with the pros and cons of this $500 gaming computer. Well, one of the few things is that I always love messing with the $500 budget range of gaming PCs, because you can usually build some pretty darn good systems. And for once, I can say I'm very confident in the price to performance ratio of this system, because if you actually compare it to my $400 gaming PC I did 2 weeks back, the performance difference between similar games like Doom and GTA 5 are enormous. This $500 gaming PC is definitely a good step up over that one, and that is primarily due to the increased performance of using a Kaby Lake i3 over like a Kaby Lake Pentium, despite there being only a 0.4 gigahertz difference between the two processors. But most of the work is being done with the MSI RX 470 in this build versus the GTX 1050 that was in the other build. One other thing I really like about this system is that thanks to the graphics card and its 4 gigabytes of VRAM, it's one step closer to being more future-proof than the regular system, because having that extra VRAM will allow you to support higher end resolution textures that are going to come with future games. And that's something really cool to see with the graphics card in this build, because it's actually under $200, and rarely do you ever see graphics cards that support 4 gigabytes of RAM in such a cheap price range. And despite the underwhelming reviews that came with the Intel Kaby Lake i5 and i7s, even though those weren't exactly the fastest chips that made a huge improvement upon Skylake, The improvement of Kaby Lake on the budget end series of CPUs in the Kaby Lake lineup has been immense. As you can clearly see, the i3 7100 is a clear improvement over the i3 6100, despite there only being about a 0.3 GHz difference in clock speed. And this is all primarily because of the architecture as well as changes in the CPU building process and everything like that. And another pro in my eyes is that even though there's a $35 case in this build, it actually features 2 case fans, which is awesome, because usually in this price range of really cheap PC cases, there usually only comes about like, 1 or not even 2 case fans in these really cheap PC cases. So it's really cool to see that this DIY case has 2 case fans, one that's actually at the front of the case and one's at the back, so you can get kind of like a good amount of coverage of airflow throughout the case just within having to have the case and not buy any extra case fans. So that's something really cool to see in the case that I've picked out for this build. Now, there aren't that many cons when it comes to this PC. However, I will note that one major con that I see is that the power supply in this build isn't more than like 500 watts, and that's because I had to meet the price of this $500 gaming computer, because at $515 you're kind of pushing the price a little bit, and so I could have gone with like a 500 or 600 watt power supply, but that would have increased the total price of this PC to an amount that I wouldn't really call it a $500 PC. But regardless, that's the only major con I see. But another thing to take note of is that the case in this build, while it is really cool that it comes with 2 case fans, people have reported that it's quite a bit plasticky, like there's a lot of plastic in the case and it's not so much metal. So don't expect any amazing build quality out of the case in this PC, but do expect some pretty good airflow since it does come with 2 case fans, and it'll be able to hold everything in your system pretty well.
Is this how your mother likes it? I bet your mother likes it like this. She loves it. Yeah, fuck your mom. I'm fucking your mom right now. Raw dog it, baby. Feels real good. Gonna make some children tonight. I'm your daddy now. I'm your fucking daddy.